And it takes place in Montana in kind of the fall or winter. It was a Tuesday when I came home from school and found Grandma lying on the living room floor with a black eye. Dad was working tens and wouldn't be back for hours. A half-empty bottle of Gallo stood on the counter without a cap. I set down my skateboard and backpack. Grandma was too heavy for me to lift. I put my hands underneath her armpits and pulled, but could barely drag her. The flesh around her eye was swollen and purple. I slapped her cheeks until she woke up. Still silent, Grandma let me help her over to the couch. We sat side by side and watched a cable program about UFOs. I pointed out the strings on the fake ones until Dad came home. He stuffed a wadded up piece of paper towel into the mouth of the wine bottle and put it in the fridge. "Hey there, sluggard," he said, looking at Grandma's eye. "I'd hate to see the other guy." Dad was the king of all one-liners. Winter came on strong that week. An inversion trapped cold air inside the valley. Temperatures dropped. Dad's mill sent long clouds of gray up into the layer that covered town. We fired up the natural gas fireplace. By Thursday, I could see my breath as I skated home from school. I opened the front door and found Grandma naked and lying on the floor halfway between the bathroom and the hall. I walked over softly. The grandfather clock ticked the seconds. Her body was like an overcooked roast, the flesh ready to fall off the bone. Tangled webs of blue veins lined all her limbs. Standing there staring, I heard only my slow breaths and the ticks from the clock. Dad wouldn't be home for 2 more hours. My hands gripped tighter around my skateboard. Inside the bedroom, I saw streaks of brown shit across the sheets. The bells of the grandfather clock clanged out the changing of the hour. I turned and ran back out the front door, threw my skateboard on the ground and pushed hard all the way back past my school, past the gray and leafless trees, to the park on the other side of Higgins. There were no kids out, it was too cold. I skated in circles on the basketball court and practiced a couple of kickflips, just to kill the hours until I knew Dad would be home. A year ago this time, Grandma cooked Thanksgiving dinner for the 3 of us. At the start of the school year, she still packed my lunches. I landed with one hand on the pavement, the deck of my board bouncing upside down a few feet away. In the sky above the mountains, the round white disk of the sun showed itself before setting. When I got back home, Grandma sat on the couch, fully clothed and sipping Gallo. Her eye looked worse. Black streaks went down the side of her nose and up her brow. On TV, a man in a Bigfoot costume walked through a meadow, turned and looked straight at the camera. I found Dad in her bedroom, still in his work clothes, wiping up the bigger pieces of feces with paper towels. I was skating, were the first words out of my mouth. I leaned my shoulder against the door frame, but didn't go in. Grandma's old lampshade gave the whole room a yellowish light. When Dad looked up, I turned my eyes down to the carpet. "She did this for both of us, you know," Dad said. I played that sentence through my head a couple times, listening for a punchline. Dad held the poop-stained towels by the corners like they were dead birds and dropped them into a plastic bag. "All that stuff people say about karma," he went on, "it's all just a pile of shit if you ask me." I didn't get it at first, so Dad gestured with his hands toward the actual pile of shit that lay in front of him. "Get it?" he said. "She did this for us? Karma?" Then we both laughed and howled until our faces hurt and our eyes watered at what was not, by a long shot, my father's funniest joke. When I came home Friday, Grandma was gone, along with the good car. An empty bottle of Gallo sat on the counter. I left a message for Dad at the mill and circled the neighborhood on my skateboard. For over an hour, I cruised the sidewalks and up the cul-de-sacs. Puffs of steam came out my mouth as the gray day turned to night. By the time I got back to the house, I sweated hard underneath my coat. When Dad came home, he picked up the empty wine bottle, said, "I guess we're experiencing the wrath of grapes," and threw it in the trash. We climbed into the old pickup and drove in bigger circles. The passing light from the street lamps lit up the wrinkles on my father's face. His long off started tomorrow. The truck didn't have a radio, so I listened to the old engine rev and the windows rattle in their ancient seals. "Let this be a lesson to you, son," he said. "What's the lesson?" I said. "Don't drink and drive." Dad paused for a second. "You might hit a bump and spill your drink." I'd heard that one before. We finally found Grandma halfway down to Lolo. She'd crossed to the wrong side of the road and crashed into a concrete divider. The good car was totaled. Grandma lay in the driver's seat, leaning against the airbag. Once we got her out, I saw that her other eye was now blackened. The three of us sat silent, side by side, on the bench seat of the pickup. Dad must have noticed me staring at Grandma's bruised face. "Time is the great healer," he said, "but it's a terrible beautician." It was a busy weekend. Dad called tow trucks first, then medical people. We spent all day Saturday installing stainless steel railings in Grandma's bedroom and bathroom. A lady, who I guess was a nurse, brought in a wheelchair, a bench that went in the shower, and a bunch of plastic tubs. Grandma sat on the couch during all this, wearing her two dark eyes like a mask. TV showed a black and white photo of the Loch Ness Monster poking its head above water. After the nurse lady left, Dad took Grandma into the bedroom. I bundled up and grabbed my board, wondering what I would do in a couple weeks, once it was too cold to skate. By the front door, one gloved hand on the knob and the other around my board, I turned and looked back to the bedroom. I saw my father in his swimming trunks. He bent at the waist and wrapped his strong arms around my grandmother's shapeless and naked body. I watched as together they turned into a monster, with its two tired legs and its two dragging tails, that stepped and stumbled its way down the hall and into the bathroom. Weak little limbs bumped against the walls. Big feet pounded the hardwood and shook the floor with each heavy step. The bathroom door swung shut and water ran into the tub. I looked down at the skateboard that all of a sudden seemed heavier in my hands and knew that someday it would be me making that monster. If not with Grandma, then with my father a little further down the line. Someday I would be the limp and dragging half of that monster, and I hoped that somebody would be there to form it with me. And when all these true things built up and felt unbearable, I had one more thought. The family that plays together stays together, but the family that showers together is stuck together.